Hi, this is Ariane, this is Book Zealots, and this is Manifest Destiny 1842. This is also March 2026, the National Quilting Month. And I just want to go over a little bit of quilting, and then I will get into the events and whatnot for 1842. Boy, do I have some spicy stuff. The foundation of the log cabin quilt is the creation of this iconic design is relatively unknown. However, there are many theories. There is an observation, similar patterns on a mummy or mummies, plural, found in ancient Egyptian tombs. One is a cat, which is so gross. Whatever. Oh, okay. Also, there are patterns that have been seen in farmed fields, or patterns created in farmed fields on the British Isles in the Middle Ages. I don't know how people would know that, but apparently it's a thing. And the secret to the design's beginnings might not ever be known. We do know that the log cabin, and I will include a picture of what the log cabin looks like, not to be confused with the courthouse pattern. They're different. So anyway, we do know that the log cabin made its U.S. debut around the 1860s during the Civil War times, and it was known as the log cabin president, supposedly, allegedly, for Abraham Lincoln. And there's more information. I will put the information, a link to all of my notes, and I will try and include all of the pictures as well. And obviously I will also include where I got most of the information, because if I don't have it included, then I forgot. Popular quilt blocks for 1842 was the Baltimore pattern and the friendship block / signature block. Now, one of the things about quilts is that you can have one block that's identical, and it has so many different names about it, or for it. I do also have information for popular quilt blocks between 1837 and 1901, so if you're interested, I will probably put the information in the community, in a community post, the link to all of my notes. And it talks about fabrics and techniques, etc. And obviously most people were sewing by hand, but would include, there was an invention in 1842, a sewing machine by John James Greenough, I think that's how you say his name, of Washington, D.C. He secured the first U.S. patent for a sewing machine, which featured a rack, clamps for leather, and a needle design that allowed for automated, continuous stitching. I love my sewing machine when it's not being persnickety. When it works great, and when it's not, it really makes me frustrated. But I am so grateful for a sewing machine. Let's see what else. Okay, so also an invention was grain elevators. Joseph Dart built the first steam-powered grain elevator in Buffalo, New York, allowing for the rapid mechanical handling and storage of grain transported via the Erie Canal. I wonder how many farmers know that. Locomotive improvements. Matthias W. Baldwin patented a flexible beam truck for locomotive driving wheels, which improved traction and allowed locomotives to navigate tight curves on American railroads. This makes me think of civil engineers in parking lots. Do you all get frustrated with that? Like, who designed this? You need to allow enough room for very large trucks. Tight curves. Railroads, people, they just weren't thinking. Improved lamp design. John Grannis, I think that's how you say his name, patented an improved specialized cylinder designed for lamps burning lard and tallow. That's interesting. Collapsible tube. Although patented by American artist John Rand in 1841, the manufacturing of collapsible screw-top oil tubes for paints became prominent around this time, changing how artists worked. Manifest Destiny Bingo has artist in there somewhere. In 1842, the United States saw the signing of the Webster-Ashburton Treaty to settle the U.S.-Canada border, the end of the Second Seminole War, and the first gold discovery in California. Key events included the D-O-R-R Rebellion in Rhode Island, a major slave revolt in the Cherokee Nation, and the establishment of institutions like Notre Dame. And I have information about that. Hang on. Universities. The future Hollins University is founded in Roanoke, Virginia, by the Reverend Joshua Bradley as the Coeducational Valley Union Seminar in the historical settlement of, I don't know how to say this, Bodetort Springs. If that's wrong, let me know and I won't be surprised. It is today one of the oldest institutions of higher education for women in the United States. Cumberland University is founded by the Cumberland Presbyterian Church in Lebanon, Tennessee. And what will become the University of Notre Dame in South Bend, Indiana, is established by Father Edward Sorin of the Roman Catholic Congregation of Holy Cross. And there's more information. Villanova University is founded in Villanova, Pennsylvania. Villanova is just fun to say. By the Augustinian order. The university traces its roots to Old St. Augustine's Church, Philadelphia, which the Augustinian friars founded in 1796. And again, there's more information. So if you wanted to read about the founding of universities and some that are still existing, sadly I have one that is no longer with us. Iowa Wesleyan University. It was founded in 1842 but closed permanently at the end of 2022-2023 academic year due to unsustainable financial challenges. Ohio Wesleyan University was also established in 1842 in the month of September. And then the other university that was founded in 1842 is Willamette University, the oldest university in the West, located in Salem. The university had its origins in a school for Native American children and operated by Reverend Jason Lee. And I think this one, it says Salem, but I think it was, I want to say Oregon. For some reason, I don't have it on here. I think it was Oregon. Oh, there's so much information. Okay, key events. Foreign policy and border. I mentioned the Webster-Ashburton Treaty that was signed defining the U.S.-Canada, I even want to say Canadian border, boundary east of the Rocky Mountains. Conflict and civil unrest, the Second Seminole War on August 14th, Colonel Worth declared the war over, leading to the forced relocation of many Seminoles. The Dorr Rebellion, D-O-R-R. In May, militia supporting Thomas Dorr were repulsed in a fight over suffrage in Rhode Island. Slave revolt in the Cherokee Nation in November. Over 20 slaves revolted at Weber's Falls, attempting to flee to Mexico. Lombard Street Riot, a 3-day riot in Philadelphia, began on August 1st. Territory and expansion. California gold, March 9th, Francisco López documented the first discovery of gold in California, leading to a small-scale rush. Florida, the Armed Occupation Act, August 4th, was passed to promote settlement. Texas, Mexican troops briefly invaded and occupied San Antonio in March. Science, law, and education. So I mentioned the institutions, so I'm not going to go over them again. Technology, February 21st, the first U.S. patent for a sewing machine, was granted to John Greenbow. Law, the Apportion Act of 1842 mandated single-member districts for the House. Culture, and I will talk more about this at the very end. Charles Dickens visited the U.S. Politics, the 1842 federal election saw the Democrats gain a significant majority in the House. All right, 1852 in history, January 1st. First Illustrated Weekly magazine in U.S. publishes first issue in New York City. January 2nd, first U.S. wire suspension bridge for general traffic opens in Penn, Pennsylvania. January 31st, John Tyler's daughter, Elizabeth, marries in White House. February 15th, first adhesive postage stamp in the U.S., private delivery company in New York City. February 21st, first known sewing machine, this one mentioned already. March 3rd, first U.S. child labor law regulating working hours passed, and that was in Massachusetts, which is interesting because I wonder how that fit in with the book that I read, The Jew Story, and that person's industry, the factory was in Tennessee, so I'm curious how this played into that. March 17th, Indians land in Ohio, a 12-mile area in Upper Sandusky. March 30th, ether was used as an anesthetic for the first time by a Dr. Crawford Long. Hang on a minute. So what did he use this for? Oh, he used it to remove a tumor, and the patient was James Venable. He was from Jefferson, Georgia, and it was in his neck. Oy. Though he used it earlier, the doctor did, he did not publish his findings until 1849. Wow, so that's wild. August 14th, Seminole War ends. Indians removed from Florida to Oklahoma. August 31st, Micah Rugg patents a nuts and bolts machine. And I have the patent information, United States Patent Office, and I will include this in all of my notes in the community post. Also in 1842, this was in August, American author Washington Irving, and if you're thinking of The Legend of Sleepy Hollow, yes, that's the author. Washington Irving. He is appointed U.S. Minister to Spain, and he served from 1842 to 1846. Now, he was trying to convince other American authors to earn acclaim in Europe, which I find really fascinating because we'll find out later there were copyright issues. Anyway, very interesting information here for some of these writers. But he also admired some British writers. And again, it's all in my notes. U.S. Naval Observatory was authorized by an act of Congress, and they received, I believe, $25,000 to obtaining the instruments needed and books. September 18th, first edition of Pittsburgh Post-Gazette was published. November 4th, Abraham Lincoln marries Mary Todd in Springfield, Illinois. November 17th, Fugitive slave George Latimer was captured in Boston. November 22nd, Mount St. Helens in Washington erupts. December 7th, New York Philharmonic's first concert. December 19th, U.S. recognizes independence of Hawaii. I'm sorry, I have the commercial for sugarcane playing in my head. Exploration. John C. Fremont, and I don't know if it's Fremont. I don't know, but there's a little thing over the E. What's that called? The thing that goes over the E, I forget. Surveys the Oregon Trail up the Platte River to South Pass, beginning in 1842. The American Soldier Explorer is sponsored by his influential father-in-law, Senator Thomas Hart Benton. Benton was an architect and champion of westward expansion by the United States, a cause that became known as Manifest Destiny. He was nicknamed Old Bouillon. He was an American politician, attorney, soldier, longtime United States Senator from Missouri. It says from Missouri. So Fremont was a major general of the United States Army, explorer and politician. Now, interestingly, Benton was a Democrat and Fremont was a Republican. And he was a United States Senator from California and the first Republican nominee for President of the U.S. in 1856. Christopher Houston Carson was born in Richmond, Kentucky. He was popularly known as Kit Carson, and he was an American frontiersman, fur trapper, wilderness guide, Indian agent, and U.S. Army officer. He became an American frontier legend in his own lifetime through biographies and news articles. Exaggerated versions of his exploits were the subjects of dime novels. His understated nature belied confirmed reports of his fearlessness, combat skills, tenacity. He had gumption, or grit, or both. Tenacity, as well as profound effects on the westward expansion of the United States, and he was part of Fremont's exploration. Okay, I have a gray area. Charles Dickens, his first visit to America. He needed money, and he supposedly wanted to boost his career, boost his popularity, and he also needed to deal with copyright issues, which is understandable because we didn't have an international copyright law, and he wanted to be paid for his books. Totally understandable. The irony, he wanted popularity, got popularity, he was treated like a rock star, and then was put upon because he didn't have any privacy, didn't have room to breathe. Everybody was trying to outdo each other to impress him, and he didn't like it. So he got the popularity, but then didn't. Anyway, yeah, it's a thing. He traveled from Boston, which allegedly was his favorite, to Virginia and St. Louis. When he left, he apparently wrote a critical book, and I will include that. The criticism that he wrote is titled American Notes for General Circulation. From what I've read, I haven't read it, but from what I've read about this circulation is it was kind of dry and statistical. I don't know. I don't have an opinion about it one way or the other, but I think it's hilarious because it comes to bite him in the butt. However, I will include in the community post a link for American Notes for General Circulation. Also, a book that was resulting his visit in America is Martin Chuzzlewit, which I obviously need to read sooner rather than later. Why'd he hate America so much? Okay. How it came to bite him in the butt. So he goes back home, writes his observations, complaining about America, and people are not happy. So even though he was still making money on his books, his reputation plummeted. In 1867 to 1868, so I will probably be returning to this when we get to those years, he had to eat crow and come back to America to increase his reputation, repair his reputation. No, he didn't. He wanted money. Yes, he was in dire need of money. It's interesting how things like that come about, right? So he was willing to come back to the squalor in that he thought of America and Americans, and needed to make bank. And make bank he did. In today's money, he made over $4 million. I mean, I think he was only here for, what, 4 to 6 months? 4 to 6 months. I mean, hello. That's good. Did he ever write a book claiming how wonderful America was? I'm just saying. Okay. So I will include the information for the American Notes for General Circulation, but there's also a documentary, which I haven't watched, but I want to watch. The book formed the basis for Dickens in America, and it was in 2005. Have you all heard of this? I haven't heard of this. An author documentary series by Miriam Margolyes. Margolyes? I'm sorry, might be Margolyes, in which she followed Dickens's journey through the U.S. That must have been cool. Visiting many of the places mentioned by the author in his book. Fascinating. So anyways, let me know if any of these sound interesting to you and what you might be wanting to read. Let me know if you're interested in the Dickens thing. It's a great area. I mean, if you want to read Martin Chuzzlewit, I read it because that's how we roll, right? Yes, because it's manifest destiny, baby. No gatekeeping. Okay, love you guys. Talk to you in the comments section and let me know if any of this sounded interesting. And I hope you guys all have a great reading month. Bye.